Alright, first and foremost, I'm going to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and bishops, Great Millstone, and Shalom to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Alright, I'm the brother Yawanathan, back another quick lesson. And today I wanted to basically bring this article out, which I did my own individual fact checking, and it actually turns out that, not everything in this article is true. So I wanted to put that disclaimer before we get into anything. This website, thepeoplesvoice.tv, they're pretty much known to use a lot of clickbait, a lot of sensationalism, and misleading titles. But at the end of the day, they are reporting. It's not satire news, so to speak, because they're reporting on things that actually take place. All right, but yeah, it got that, conspiracy theory aspect and speculations, stuff like that. So I wanted to put that out there first. But like I said, I also did my own individual fact check. And, I read some of the article, but I really just want to deal with the chat, fact checking this article because it gave more accurate information, right? But basically the event that took place last week, July 20th, 2026, 3.9 magnitude earthquake triggered by U.S. Navy proves the government controls the planet's tectonic plates. So again, that's really a bold statement to say that they control tectonic plates, but they did create an earthquake, all right? And it does prove that, this whole quote-unquote conspiracy theory that basically the government does have weather manipulation technology, all right, to create earthquakes. They also got cloud seeding to create, rain and storms, and many other patented technology, the HAARP. All right, they have different technology where they can manipulate and even weaponize the weather. So, when you see these various fires all over the place, right? Washington, all over Europe, you got acres, thousands upon thousands of acres of land being burnt. I was watching Elder Apostle Ramlab's video, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, and he was showing, them bird's eye view cameras or whatever, them helicopter pictures, and you see the trees not burnt, but all the houses burnt to the ground. It's like, you got to be wary of stuff like that and know that these devils absolutely, I'm talking about the so-called white man Esau Edom, he's the devil and Satan that the Bible speaks of, and he's the man that been blessed with the sword, according to Genesis, the 27th chapter, his forefather Esau Edom. But yeah, these people absolutely have this type of technology, and as we're about to read in the article a little bit, this earthquake was actually triggered by an explosion. So I'm pretty sure y'all looking at the tabs, you could basically see where we're going with this, through the spirit, if you in the know. But for those of you out there that's, this is new, you just coming into the truth, just stay tuned. We're going to get to it. But, yeah, pretty much, they did right here, the U.S. Navy just detonated 40,000-pound bomb, a 40,000-pound bomb off the coast of Florida. And the resulting 3.9 magnitude earthquake is the smoking gun that proves they control, quote-unquote, the earth itself, which is really not true. One, they don't control anything, really. It's Yahweh Shemel Shai. That's the first thing that needs to be said, because who set these devils up with this type of power and technology and weaponry? Like I just said, they were blessed with the sword. This is a nation of people that they excel when it comes to, weaponry. All right, the nuclear missile, the atomic bomb, stuff like this, all the so-called conspiracy weapons that exist out there, the heart attack guns, exoskeleton suits for soldiers, super soldier serum, robotics, using fucking robots as weapons. This man truly does have a gift when it comes to creating these weapons of destruction. That's that sword. But to say they control the earth, I feel like that's a little bit of a reach. But I understand what basically what they're getting at is that they can create earthquakes. That's what we're gonna come to find out. That's not a conspiracy theory. When you seen the earthquake that happened in Haiti, all right, various earthquakes in Florida, which is not on a fault line, if I'm not mistaken, this article might go into that, or that might have been some of my own individual research. But yeah, Florida's not on a fault line, so they really shouldn't be having earthquakes. But due to the Navy, running these tests, and this is not the first time, they have created earthquakes in Florida. All right, which means, and it does prove that they can pretty much create an earthquake anywhere due to this explosion, bombs detonating. So let's keep reading a little bit. Like I said, I probably won't even read too much of the actual article, but I'll just go through the bullet points because that's what I made ChatGPT do. I put the article in, give me the bullet points of the facts, the speculations, and things that are just outright not even true. So, because again, this People's Voice TV, I mean, you could say it's satire because when you look at some of these shits on the side, I mean, I don't know. I guess I will have to look into it. But Ariana Grande confesses Leonardo DiCaprio forced me to eat the C word. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's all. I haven't looked into it. I'm not going to say whether that's true or not. We know that these people do eat, but, and I'm being careful, obviously, for the YouTube, but, stuff like that. I mean, some stuff is going to be hard to prove. And like the scriptures say, prove all things. So we're not going to deal with really too much speculations or what they call conspiracy theories or things that just haven't been fact checked. I'm going to deal with the actual facts of what took place. It says the United States Geological Survey confirmed the event registered as a 3.9 magnitude seismic disturbance. But here's the part they're hoping you won't notice. The USGS themselves admitted that the reading was more typical of an explosion than a naturally occurring earthquake. They even acknowledged that the Navy has conducted full ship shock trials in this region in the past. They're not even denying it anymore. This was a man-made earthquake triggered deliberately by the U.S. military, and they want you to believe it was just another routine test. Because, yeah, the shock test, they're saying that they're testing this, does it say? No, it's going to go down. It's probably say it. Let me see. It's a particular Navy ship. Damn, let's just go to the chat for this then so I don't have to be skimming through the whole article. Right here. What actually happened on July 16th, 2026, the Navy conducted an underwater full ship shock trial roughly 91 miles off Florida for the future USS Ted Stevens. So the shock trial basically means that, right here, the purpose was to test whether the destroyer could remain operational after a nearby combat-like explosion. So, yeah, it's a shock test. It's like, how do you also call it? Like proofing it. They build in the ships. They put this type of technology to where it could withstand explosions and bombs underwater. And then they got to recreate a realistic scenario, proofing it. So that's pretty much what it's about. But again, it does prove that explosions to certain degrees, all right, certain TNT, it does cause the earth to shake. So once again, I know you brothers that's in the know, you in the spirit, you already know where I'm going with this. This is going to be that great earthquake of World War III. Like the scriptures say, the earth is going to rock to and fro. I'm not going to try to jump the gun, Let's just get all the information out there and we'll hit the scriptures. This is an interesting thing that they claim that happened. Chat said that there's not really proof that this is real, but this is more one of those speculation things. It's really hard to prove if this is actually the truth or not. But I do want to entertain this for a second. The pattern is unmistakable. This is not the first time the Navy has triggered a 3.9 magnitude earthquake and called it a test. In 2021, the exact same scenario played out. A massive underwater explosion off the Florida coast, registered 3.9 on the seismograph. The Navy claimed it was a routine shock trial to test the new warship's combat readiness. But what happened 1 week later? The Champion Towers South condo building in Surfside, Florida collapsed in the middle of the night, killing 98 people. So check that out. All right, they did one of these shock trials for the Navy ship. A week later, did it say? A week later? Yeah, a week later, a condo building fell. Now, when you read this, when you fact check that with ChatGPT, It says speculation without evidence. The blast was secretly testing an earthquake weapon. This is a shock trial for a Navy ship, but it still does prove that they can create earthquakes. It doesn't mean that it was an earthquake weapon necessarily, but these explosions, these bombs, this TNT that goes off and detonates, it does create seismic activity. All right, it can be measured on the Richter scale as an earthquake. All right, the repeated 3.9 magnitude was a deliberate calibration number. I guess that's what the article was claiming. Like I said, we're not reading the whole thing, so you know, you do with whatever the information, what you will with it. You can go do your own research. But it says Navy patents for underwater sound generators prove the ability to trigger tectonic faults. We don't know that. Again, we do know that these tectonic faults and these the ring of fire, they call it, if I'm not mistaken, especially when you deal with San Francisco in California, that fault line, they saying that thing is due to blow any day now. All right, the Yellowstone Mountain is pretty much is unstable. There's no telling at any point in time that thing is going to basically crack. That fault line is going to cause catastrophic destruction. They made a movie about it, the San Andreas Fault. I think The Rock was in it. But I never seen the movie, but I seen, you know, the trailers and stuff where they basically showing you that earthquake, that fault line, you know, getting disrupted or whatever is going to cause an earthquake of biblical proportion. All right, and the scriptures do speak about it. Matter of fact, before we even keep going on there, let's go to Matthew 24 and verse, just getting straight to the point, verse 7. And these are the signs that, you know, we're at the end. The sign of thy coming, which is Yahushai's coming, all right, and of the end of the world, the end of an age. That word world in the Greek is eon, which is talking about an age, which when you link it with 2nd Esdras 6 and 9, it's talking about the end of Esau, Edom's world, the so-called white man's world, which that's what it is, all right? America, Babylon the Great, NATO and the EU, even the Russians, they're Edomites. I mean, they pretty much rule the world. The small hats in our land, you know, this is their world. This is their time to rule, but it's going to come to an end. And how do we know that? Because Yahushua gave us all the signs. Let's put the red letter on. Verse 7, Matthew 24 and 7, for nation shall rise against nation. You got race wars, you know, racial tension, people coming up against each other, and kingdom against kingdom, right? World War III. We in the midst of World War III. Different kingdoms and empires basically going at it. Russia and Ukraine, you know, America and Iran, even in parts of Africa, you know, they got wars going on. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. So you got famines. Right now they talking about a diesel fuel famine or a shortage. Famine, same thing. Well, famine would typically be, you know, food and water, but based on how this system and this infrastructure of society has been set up, diesel fuel is directly linked to food and water, all right, to the food supply chain, because you need diesel fuel for these trucks, these trains, etc. It's embedded into the system. So without diesel fuel, there's going to be a famine of food and water. And you look at other parts of the world, people are already in famine. All right, food shortages, food rationing, fuel rationing, crops being destroyed by so-called natural disasters, which we come in to find out these are all unnatural disasters, and a lot of these events are being manipulated by the so-called white man because he's the devil. All right, he's destroying people's farmlands, and there's going to be famines, man, especially here in America. There's going to be a great famine. And pestilences, yeah, disease outbreaks. You got people dying from diarrhea, all right, throughout America. You got people literally dying from the shits, all right, from the mud butt. That's insane, bro. Like, your diarrhea is so severe that you dying from that shit. You know, that's terrible, man. And then you got all these other diseases that are just going around, and future biological weapons that are getting ready to be released. Especially they talking about, you know, different cyber attacks and stuff like that. Because I was also reading up on that the other day and watching some videos. It may come out in a lesson, you know, I don't know if the spirit allows, but I'm pretty sure y'all brothers know about how if they basically turn off the power grid, these different biolabs that have all these diseases and experiments on them, them shits is basically getting released. Or they can actually hack into these labs and release it, you know, through some type of cyber attack. So it's no telling, man. The scriptures say there's going to be a time like never was. So when you put all these things together, the AI risk, you know, these the open claw and the, what was the other one? Anthropic, you know, these AI agents basically doing what they wasn't commanded to do. going outside of the realm of what they was told to do, and basically hacking into shit. Basically, they got through and bypassed certain security. Well, then that just goes to show you that we living in a time where, like the scriptures say, perilous times. Danger could come from anywhere, man, at this point. It could be an actual disease, because look at how fucking filthy this place is. Look at how sick the people are. Or it could just be some man-made shit. There's no telling. And earthquakes in diverse places, right? In different places. Places you never seen earthquakes. You got basically earthquake maps that show you all the activity, all the seismic activity that's happening on a daily basis. All right, these scientists are baffled. They have no idea what the hell's going on. Again, some of it could be through them blowing shit up underwater, under the earth, whatever, causing these earthquakes. Some of it could be natural because all of the fracking. I was doing research on that too, how all that liquid chemicals that they inject into the earth when they're doing this fracking process, the plates or whatever, the tectonic plates, they lubricated by oil. So when they frack through the plates and through the earth's crust and all of that, to get the oil out, it's not drying the earth up. Oil is is always reproducing. The earth is always creating new oil, new gold. These things are resources. I forgot what it's called. There's a word for it, but I'm pretty sure y'all know what I'm talking about. It's basically infinite resource. So it's not that, the plates is not lubricated. That's like a common, misunderstanding or myth. What's really happening is those chemicals that they injecting into the earth is actually causing chemical reactions under the earth's tectonic plates, and that's actually causing more earthquakes. There's proof of that. That's not a conspiracy theory, man. So it's causing earthquakes in places that shouldn't be no earthquakes. It got fault lines that are basically long overdue for, certain volcanoes and earthquakes and stuff like that, which is directly related. And this man is basically, destroying the foundation of the earth, ultimately, this so-called white man. And this is why, once again, he's the devil that the Bible speaks of. But yeah, this is the beginning of sorrows. Like I said, the beginning of mourning and great death. 2nd Ezra 16. All right, so let's go back. Let me see some. Pretty much, that building that fell. Let me go back up a little bit. This Champion Towers, South Condo building. That building, when it fell, it pretty much already had infrastructure issues. But, I guess the conspiracy or the speculation would be that it was a targeted hit, and we don't really have no proof of that. I would say, do more research, and if it wasn't pouring people in there, then that would be more, leaning on the side that it possibly was a hit, a targeted hit. But we're not going to, really deal with that because, again, there's no proof of that. There's really no... I ain't do enough research, so I'm not going to make that type of claim. But at the end of the day, that's the event. They did a shock trial, and it created an earthquake. So even if you just deal with that alone, we're going to go through these scriptures, man. 2nd Ezra chapter 9 and verse, I start at 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And if you link that with Isaiah 29, and 6, it mentions how the Lord would visit with earthquake. All right, and when you deal with that word visit, it basically means to punish. When you deal with it in the Hebrew, it has different contexts, but one of the definitions, one of the outline of biblical usage is basically saying like a judgment or punishment. That's the visitation that it's speaking about. So, yeah, the Heavenly Father uses these different so-called natural disasters or unnatural disasters, because not all of it is the so-called white men. You had these devils, these proud-ass devils at the World Economic Forum that said, oh, well, if the Most High makes a drought, if God makes a drought, we could just create rain, talking very proudly. But what about if the Most High just makes floods like how he did in the time of Noah? Which he said he's not going to flood and destroy flesh again by flooding the whole planet Earth. That's the promise of the rainbow. But you see that the Most High does bring heavy amounts of rains and still flood certain cities, and people's homes get destroyed and people die. So, yeah, sometimes that could be controlled by the so-called white men, fake hurricanes or whatever. But the point being is that if the Most High brings some type of natural disaster like that as a form of judgment, they can't reverse that. So they talking about, if it's a drought, we can make rain. But what about if it's too much rain? You can't do nothing about that. You can't stop that rain. All right, what about if the Most High is blasting that sun? You can't do nothing about that. They got these little fake clouds and shit. That's not going to do nothing, man. So the Most High judgment is a real thing. But remember that he set up Esau, Edom to be that sword in Psalm 17 and 13. So they do have some type of power, but I'm not going to say they got full control over the earth like the article is trying to claim, man. Just because we have proof that, yes, they can create earthquakes and rain and storms. But you got to remember that it's the Most High, ultimately, Yahweh Shai, that uses these things as forms of judgment, as vengeance, spirits of vengeance. All right, so, yeah, when we see these signs, what's the signs? The prophecies, the things that were written aforetime that's written for our learning. That's how we're going to know that we at the end, man. Verse 3, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. All right, declaring the end from the beginning. Isaiah 46 and 10. All right, that's what makes the Bible stand out from all other books. That's what makes the Bible the truth, matter of fact. Because all these other so-called spiritual religious books is nothing but lies and bullshit. There's no prophecies in them. And any so-called prophecies that might be in the Quran, we know that the Quran and Islam or, Muslims or whatever, they just plagiarizing the scriptures, man. The Holy Bible is the only one that prophesied the end. All right, that prophesied things that have now been documented as history, but were prophesied from the beginning by Yahweh Shai through the mouth of the prophets, which is men of Israel. All right, chosen men, elect men out of the nation of Israel, which today are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's why when you're dealing with the Hebrew Israelites, the men that you see out there on the highways and byways speaking this truth, reading the scriptures with the 12 tribe sign, not all of them, but when you're dealing with GMS, Great Millstone, this is a camp of prophets, all right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai. We the ones telling you the future. We're the ones reading these prophecies out the Bible and interpreting them, all right, and bringing it out in public, doing these lessons, man. So it says, for like all that is made in the world had a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. All right, see, the end is being manifest. The end of what? This current world. To the beginning of Jacob's world, which is the kingdom of heaven, the promise of Yahweh Shai for the nation of Israel. And that's going to come through Yahweh Shai actually coming back. All right, going back again to Matthew 24, the sign of thy coming. This is the disciples asking the Lord to give them signs of when he's going to return. So when you read Matthew 24, yeah, all these things are pretty much taking place, man. Wars, rumors of wars. We just read the 7th verse. This gospel being preached in all the world, spreading throughout the internet, going viral. Everybody's talking about the Hebrew Israelites. All right, this is happening, man. So let's go to Revelation 11. And this is pretty much was the first thing that I thought about when I seen this article, when I seen how they made an explosion and, it created an earthquake. Oh, wait, but the scriptures speak about that in the time of World War III. All right, when all these nuclear bombs are going back and forth from Russia, China, America, Israel, Pakistan, North Korea, the NATO nations that have missiles, when all these missiles are flying, like the scriptures say, from one end of earth to the other, World War III, nuclear war, there is going to be a great earthquake on the planet Earth, Revelation 11 and 13. In the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. So this great earthquake is not a literal earthquake, but it's actually a TNT-induced or a ICBM nuclear missile-induced earthquake. Because there's going to be millions of warheads that are going to be detonated, man. On America alone, on Babylon the Great alone. In Revelation, 9? The Apostle John, when he was having a vision of the missiles flying, the angel whispered in his ear and told him 200,000. Because there was so many damn warheads that he saw in the vision. He said it looked like stars falling from heaven or figs, falling out of a fig tree untimely, shaken by the wind. This is how the prophets described it because they didn't know what a missile was back in the ancient world. But the angel told them 200,000. 200 million warheads is going to hit America alone. And America has thousands of missiles. These other countries that's going to be shooting missiles at each other have thousands of missiles. So when all these missiles are getting blown up on different parts of the world, different parts of Russia, China, Israel, the so-called Middle East, yeah, it's going to be a great earthquake on the planet Earth. And when it talks about the 10th part of the city fell, that's dealing with the 10 FEMA regions. How basically America's broken up into 10 parts, as you're looking at on the screen. And this is off of Wikipedia, you know, FEMA regions of America, basically. Map of the regions of Federal Emergency Management Agency. Yeah, you got basically clumps, you know, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, which obviously is including Florida, Denton, you know, Texas, Cali, so on and so forth. All right, this is the 10 FEMA regions. And basically, what is it saying? America is going to be completely destroyed. All right, Babylon the Great is going to be desolated by this nuclear war in World War III. And we are seeing the beginning of World War III with this Iranian conflict. All right, this Israeli-American-Iranian war. This is actually the beginning of it. This is the least of the flock drawing out America, Babylon the Great, you know, pulling them into this war that they got with Iran, which is going to lead other nations to getting involved too, especially if Iran gets invaded by U.S. troops, which that's already, you know, a rumor circulating that a ground invasion is eventually going to come. We know that. It's according to prophecy. But we see that they're actually talking about it in the news. The U.S. government is actually considering this, and they're actually threatening it, when not knowing that that's going to be the wrong chess move for you, man. That's going to be a snare for you Babylonians. You got to deal with the prophecies like Jeremiah 50, you know, Joel 2, and Revelation, when you deal with the great river Euphrates drying up, making way for the kings of the east. I mean, Lord willing, I'm actually planning a lesson on this, so, you know, I'll get to it when the Spirit allows, but there is going to be a great third world war. It's called the War of Armageddon, according to the scripture. Armageddon in Hebrew meaning Harmageddon, which means mountain of troops. And they're all going to be gathered over there in the so-called Middle East. That's where Joel, the 3rd chapter, that's the vision that Joel had. All right, the valley of Jehoshaphat, or in the Hebrew tongue, Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment. That's where the Most High is going to gather all the nations, all the heathen nations, and assemble them in that land and destroy them. That's going to be the end of World War III, essentially. And that event, along with World War III and the nuclear missiles flying, just like a Skynet kind of, you know, thing, so to speak, where they just basically said the AI launched the missiles in the movie Terminator. Well, it's going to be the angels of Yahweh Shai. They're going to activate them sequence codes and launch them missiles, man. And it's going to be a great catastrophe, man. It's going to be a time, like the scriptures say, a time like never was. And a destruction that's going to basically eclipse the flood. All right, this is the second death that the scriptures prophesy about, men. And in the earthquake was slain of men 7,000, basically a complete number. All right, it's not literally 7,000 men. In America, you got about 350 million people. Well, minus the elect, everybody else that's still alive and remains, when these missiles get launched from Russia, China, North Korea, and everywhere else they're coming from, and these 200 million warheads is landing down upon America, that 7,000 is really going to represent a couple million. All right, and the other people in other parts of the earth too, that's going to get hit with missiles. But everybody in America outside of the elect is going to burn. They're going to die. All right, this place is going to be completely leveled and erased off of the face of the earth. Amos 9 and 8. And the remnant were frightened and gave glory to Yahweh Shai of heaven. So the remnant is talking about the elect that's going to be delivered from that. You could link this with Revelation 15 when it speaks about them standing upon the sea of glass, talking about the earth's atmosphere, being in the chariots, so-called UFOs. You want to know how the remnant, the elect of the nation of Israel is going to be saved? How are we going to be saved, Lord willing? We're going to be saved by going up into the clouds. Not the fucking rapture that you Christians talk about, because you try to say that you're not going to be here for Jacob's trouble in the great tribulation. No, everybody's going to be going through that, even the elect. But we talking about when that second death, that lake of fire, all right, that destruction comes. There's only one way to go. There's only one place that you could be safe from that, delivered from that. And that's Isaiah 26 and 20, the Lord's chambers, which is the so-called UFOs. Matthew 24, verse 31, it tells you that they're going to go up into the clouds. And when you deal with that word clouds in the Greek, it's Naphtali or Nephele, and it actually says the cloud that led the children of Israel through the wilderness. When you go and read Exodus, there was 40 years they was in the wilderness going in circles while the Most High was basically purging the wicked Israelites, man, not allowing them to get into the land. So for 40 years, you telling me a cloud, they was following a literal cloud for 40 years, and then it turned into fire at night? It said a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. That was talking about a so-called UFO, man, the chariots of Yahweh Shai. But yeah, the point is that even the elect, the remnant, is going to be affrighted seeing that destruction, man. America is going to be completely on fire. Other parts of the world is going to be on fire. And the earth, like we about to read, Isaiah 24, and let's get it real quick. Verse 20. Yeah, this is the KJV, right? Yeah, Isaiah 24 and 20. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. You ever seen a dude that's just wasted out of his mind? I mean, I've been there before. You rocking back and forth. You don't have no equilibrium. All right, you have no balance. So yeah, it's telling you the earth itself is going to be rocking. It's going to be reeling and rocking to and fro, meaning back and forth like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. It's going to be knocked off its axis, man. All right, because yeah, the scriptures say that the earth is basically hanging on nothing. We know that there's, gravitational pull. There's deep science that we really don't understand, and the scriptures don't necessarily go into it in detail, but it does let you know certain things. Like, for an example, how the sun actually rotates the earth, not the other way around. All right, the scriptures say that the earth is still, is fixed upon a pillar, so to speak. And then it tells you how the sun and the moon run circuits, on a day-to-day basis. The stars basically run their circuits. You see, but yeah, the earth is going to basically be knocked off its axis, man. It says, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And that's talking about America ultimately. And the transgression, yeah, this is happening for all you people's wickedness, man. This second death, just like the first death, when the Most High looked at the earth, he said it was violent. And you deal with that in the Hebrew, going all the way back to Genesis, it basically says there was no justice in the earth, meaning the law, statutes, and the commandments of Yahweh Shai was not being upkept. All right, you had people doing all manner of wickedness, following their own devices, their own philosophy, just completely bugged out, just like they are now. Men wanting to be women, homosexuality, idolatry, all the things you see going on in the earth today. Because Matthew 24, Yahweh Shai said it. He said that in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, which is the last days, it was going to be like the days of Noah. The people was basically going to be doing the same things. But now people got technology, through social media and the internet. All these people's folly is basically open on display, man. We can see everything you people are doing. So how much more Yahweh Shai and the holy angels? You people got no more shame for your wickedness, your transgression, your sin. So yeah, there is going to be a great destruction. Matter of fact, when you read 19, it says the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. So again, it's going to be shaken up, man. It's going to be basically that great earthquake that the Apostle John saw in his vision in the book of Revelation. And then going to the 14th verse, Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The second woe was World War II. You had the angel in Revelation 9. He said woe 3 times. And there was 3 world wars. Well, there's going to be a third one. We in the midst of it now, but there's 2 world wars. That's why it says the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And when you deal with Albert Pikes, how he basically, spilled the beans on it, how there was going to be 3 world wars. And he said the last one was going to be with the whole Israel-Iran situation, man. So this was also planned by the so-called white man, by the bankers. All wars are bankers' wars, the Rothschilds, the so-called Illuminati. All right, this is all planned out anyways, but it's ultimately the will of Yahweh Shai in prophecy that in this third world war, this third woe means destruction. Matter of fact, let's deal with that word real quick. Salaki, I be always trying to remind myself to actually bring out, these Greek and Hebrew words instead of just saying it, but through the Spirit, Lord willing, I'll improve that. But, yeah, this word is, let's see what it says in the Greek.
Strong's G, 3759, uai. Uai.
Uai in the Greek, right? G, 3759. It just says woe. See, it doesn't really say much. Let's just get the regular word then. Command C, right? Yeah. Woe is a noun that means great sorrow, grief, or deep distress. In its plural form, woes, it refers to a set of serious problems or troubles, such as financial or economic difficulties. See that? So the third woe, this is the third world war. And you see that there is serious problems going on with this so-called Iranian conflict that America has started. We do see that this is not going to lead to anything good for America, Babylon the Great. These motherfuckers are playing checkers, man. These Iranians are playing chess. The Russians are playing chess. China's playing chess while America's playing checkers, using intimidation tactics, trying to be a hammer, trying to just basically bully their way through to their own will. It don't work like that, man. And furthermore, well, for a time, you know, the scripture does say that basically everybody was going to fear the beast, which was NATO and the EU and America after World War II, right? But then the scripture tell you that when it comes to an end of them spoiling nations, and I'm roughly paraphrasing it, that they will be spoiled. And Obadiah tells you that those that ate your bread is going to deceive you. They're going to lay a wound under thee. They're going to bring you to the borders of war. You know, your own allies are basically going to turn against you. And why is that? Because look at what America's been doing in the earth, man, since, you know, it's got its hegemony in World War II, which really it was before that, but that's what really stapled it. You know, dropping them atomic bombs, scaring the shit out of everybody. Nobody wanted to even dare, you know, look at America sideways after that, seeing that type of destruction for the first time. That's Revelation, the 13th chapter. That was basically a miracle that they caused upon the earth to rain fire down from heaven like that. That was never seen before. But now we in a time where all these nations have nuclear weapons. That's basically the great equalizer. Even the small nations at this point, like Pakistan, the fact that they got missiles, man, that just goes to show you. North Korea, that just goes to show you that America does not have that same hegemony anymore. All right, they're not that nation that they once was. And now you see the delusions, you see the pride, you know, the ego, basically leading this place right into World War III, right into nuclear destruction. All right, so that's what's going to take place. So with that, I'm going to say, Kol Haloyim, La Yahweh Shimel Shai, Bashir Makakwadash. Hope and pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.